And we welcome you back to West Virginia Outdoors, live from the Greer Lime Company studio, West Virginia's source for high-quality quick lime, hydrated lime, and chemical-grade limestone. I misspoke a moment ago. It's called the Spotted Lanternfly. That's what we're going to talk about this morning. And here to teach us more about it from the West Virginia Department of Agriculture is Kristen Wickert. Kristen, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for taking a little time out of your Saturday morning to share with us, because I got a call this week that said this was something you guys have on the radar and you're concerned about it and the threat that it might pose to our forests in West Virginia. Kind of introduce us to the spotted lanternfly and why we should be worried about it.
Of course. This is the perfect timing to learn about the spotted lanternfly because it is an invasive insect that is hatching from its egg masses this week. So my field team and I have been going out and working with the USDA in order to control this insect, and it is starting to appear in Berkeley and Mineral County.
Okay, so you've got it isolated, I guess, at this point to the eastern panhandle counties.
Yes. So this invasive insect originally appeared in Pennsylvania in 2014, and since then has been spreading rather rapidly through transportation methods. It likes to jump onto vehicles and cling on and travel on trucks and also train routes and go to new places such as the Panhandle, which has I-81, which goes down to Winchester, which also has a population. And then this insect is a lot like an invasive insect we had a while ago, the emerald ash borer.
Oh, Lord.
Yes. So do you remember the campaign of Don't Move Firewood?
Oh, I do. I do indeed.
Yes. So that still applies for this insect as well, because the insect lays these gray putty-like egg masses on wood. And so if you cut down a tree and move that timber to another place to go camping and burn it, but forget about it, these eggs can still hatch in next year in the spring.
How is that going to impact people that may be hauling timber to a sawmill or something like that? I mean, has it put a moratorium on that kind of thing?
Well, we have inspectors with multiple agencies, and also usually the company itself has an inspector that makes sure that they're not transporting invasive insects.
You say it's invasive. Do we know where it came from originally?
Originally, yes. Its home range is in certain parts of Asia, and it snuck into the United States as egg masses on landscaping rocks. So it really blends in. It looks almost like, just a piece of putty that's put on smooth surfaces. And it snuck in and emerged in Berks County, Pennsylvania, and then just kind of went wildfire for the last couple of years.
It's kind of how everything gets in here that messes things up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's usually, these things are really small and inconspicuous. And we unfortunately don't know everything, right? So when things come in, we aren't exactly sure what it might be until we get a good eye for it and teach others on what to do. But I do have some hope, a lot like another animal that you might remember, especially if your listeners, if they're outdoorsmen, the Gypsy Moth. Remember how that was everywhere?
Oh, gosh.
In the 80s and the 90s. But do you see it now?
Well, I don't know. Is it gone? I mean, it's so ingrained in my brain that I thought just like Gypsy Moth eradication was one big word. I thought
yes, it's a very big active part of many different state agencies' management plans. However, it's not like how it was when I was younger. I remember you could hear Gypsy Moth eating. There were so many. And the trees didn't have any leaves throughout the whole forest.
Right.
And we don't have that problem anymore because agencies like ours, collaboratively working with other state and federal agencies, done a lot to slow the spread and push back the Gypsy Moth, where it's not even something we manage for in half of the state of West Virginia anymore.
What was that a situation where you managed to find a predator for those, or how did you find, or did you spray and sterilize them? How did you beat that?
There were a lot of different contributing agencies and scientists and people like us who are on the ground, learning things. And it's a really good segue to talking about spotted lanternfly not giving up hope, because there's a lot of different stuff they use to control Gypsy Moth. There's a fungus that eats it, there's a virus that kills it, there's a bacteria that kills it. There's also a lot of pheromone disrupting that they did in the forest in order to make the males think that females were somewhere else, and then they never mated and didn't have babies. And then also we used classic pesticide methods and even some like management of the forest with mechanical methods. So there's a lot of things that go together where we all learned together in order to control the problem. And because spotted lanternfly showed up in 2014, we're all still learning. So, Penn State, West Virginia University, a lot of different agencies are all working together to kind of figure out those puzzle pieces for this new insect, and we've made some progress.
That's fantastic. What is the damage that this thing can do? What is the threat that it poses to our hardwood forests in West Virginia?
So this insect can feed on over 70 different species of plants, and it has favorites. So a lot like you might enjoy eating the chocolate cake first before you eat the apple, this insect does that. It prefers to establish on another invasive species called tree of heaven, which is from its native home range. So it's almost like a beacon. So when we go out, we look for it on tree of heaven before it can move to another plant that it also likes to eat, like our red maple, our black walnut, and a bunch of other forest trees as well. Also can pose a threat to standard agriculture in that the spotted lanternfly likes to feed on grapevines and even things like cucumber and basil.
Really?
Yes. So when it's a very young insect, when it doesn't have the wings yet, like right now, it's very small. It's smaller than your pinky nail, and it will feed like in mass, which means like a bunch of them will aggregate together, and they all suck out the sugars and the water from like succulent vines like cucumbers and basil, and they can make the plant wilt and die. So that
if you got a problem with your cucumber patch, start looking around. It could be something.
Yeah, so right now the spotted lanternfly looks like a very small black tick with white spots. It doesn't have wings. It's not like all the pictures you see on the internet where it has those beautiful red wings as an adult. These things develop through time, and for most of the spring, they're a very small black insect, and then in about July, they'll turn into an adult with those really pretty wings.
Now, most people don't have their garden out to the point that they would have cucumber vines fully developed at this point in the year, at least unless
Correct.
they're doing it under a hothouse or something. I mean, so I don't figure that they're going to be feeding too much because it's usually about July or before those cucumbers get to where they need to be.
Yes, so that's a very good point. So agriculturally, that's more of like a setup. It's not just a home gardener thing. It's someone who has like a hothouse or some kind of setup where they have plants a little bit out earlier.
I gotcha. And you kind of describe it for us. That name, the spotted lanternfly, tells me that there's something behind that name. Is that kind of descriptive of how it looks?
Yeah. So obviously it has spots throughout all of its life stages. So when it's that really small little insect that's smaller than your fingernail, it still has white spots. It'll eventually turn red with white spots, and then it will turn into an adult that has these really pretty tan wings, and then underneath them are red wings, and both they have spots on them as well. And the lanternfly refers to the shape of its head. So they have a very large, like bulbous head, which they have something in there that helps them suck out the tree sap because it's, they're kind of like filtering through all the sap that's gushing through a tree, and they're this small insect. So they just have a very big head, which is why they're called lanternflies.
I gotcha. Oh yeah, I Googled a picture of one. They are beautiful when they get fully developed.
Yeah, a lot of people think, oh, I saw this beautiful red butterfly in my yard. I've never seen it before, and it's actually a spotted lanternfly.
Yeah, and then 6 months later, all your trees are starting to turn brown and die. That might have had something to do with it. So
yeah, it will take a while for the insect to get to populations that could harm your trees, like what the horror pictures are up in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. So we are working really hard here in West Virginia to stop that before it happens. And we're lucky that we are just getting it now, and we have those like previous 6 or 7 years of research going on. And working with the USDA in these two counties, Mineral and Berkeley, we have seen that some of the efforts we've done from last year are reducing the populations before they're not really spreading too much at this point.
Had somebody send me a question on social media. Are they attracted to light like a moth, or are they moth-like at all?
No, they're not. So that is also a trick of their name, too. They're not moths, and they're not flies. They're actually a plant hopper. So they're not attracted to light. Some scientists are researching if they're attracted to sound and vibrations, but besides that, it seems that they're attracted to plants by how they, perceive smell and like the volatiles that plants are releasing.
Good deal. Anything else you want us to know about this before I cut you loose this morning?
Sure. If you want to learn more about the spotted lanternfly, we have a website dedicated to it with pictures and information. It's the West Virginia Department of Ag Plant Industries page of Forest Health. And if they think they see one, even if it's, a random guess, if you think you see one at all, please send me a picture and an email at bugbusters@wvda.us.
I love it. bugbusters@wvda.us. That's perfect.
Yes. Very easy to remember, even for me.
Fantastic. Kristen Wickert of the West Virginia Department of Agriculture talking about the spotted lanternfly. So I'll post a picture of it if you follow me on social media here in a minute, and you'll see it. It is a pretty thing once it gets once it emerges into its adulthood. It's for sure. Kristen, thanks for your time this morning, and have yourself a great weekend.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you later. That's Kristen Wickert with the West Virginia Department of Agriculture talking about the spotted lanternfly. It was found, as she said, in Mineral and Berkeley County, which would almost certainly mean that it's in the counties in between there somewhere. I mean, I would think. I don't know that they haven't confirmed it, but it would just make sense. All right, so something else to worry about in case you had run out of things. There's that. Now, coming up,